My name is Ngala, the National Vice Chairman of the Southern Cameroon National Council. I've been holding this position since 2000 to date, and in most cases I have been acting, especially when Ebon was in prison, and later on Paloma was sick, who is now of late. Now we have a new national chairman in the person of Chief Ayamba Etun Otto. I came to the U.S., specifically to Minneapolis, to attend the international conference on the Southern Cameroon, which is rounding up today. I must say that it was quite an opportunity, most so being my first visit to the U.S., and the conference was well attended. The debates, discussions were very lively, and that shows the enthusiasm and the commitment that Southern Cameroonians have, and they are hungry for that freedom. One other impressive thing, in addition to the attendance and the lively participation of the delegates that came from all over the US, Africa, and Europe, is that it gave me the impression that Southern Cameroonians, wherever they are, they know that they are strangers because they don't have freedom in their own homeland. They are refugees. And they, as I pointed out to them, unless Southern Cameroon becomes free, Southern Cameroonians remain prisoners even in the freest country, the United States of America, because their souls are in prison back in their own homeland. In brief, that is the impression I have of the conference, and I believe that from here on, we are going out with a new spirit, new determination, new vision, and more resolve than ever before to stand united in solidarity for the total liberation of our country, which we want it very, very soon, because our people are anxious for their freedom. They have suffered for too long. Thank you.
Okay, this conference seems to be, at least from my observation, a different conference from any other that has been held. It looks like it's a departure from the argument. I think the SCNC motto is the force of argument, another force of arms. Is it? It looks like a departure from that. Is that a true characterization?
To say that it is a departure, I would like to say that that may be your judgment. But you should understand one thing. As a child is born, he starts by sitting down, crawling, and there comes a time when he starts to walk. In this effort, whether crawling or otherwise, he meets obstacles, and he has to devise as well as develop strategies to overcome, because he has an ambition, he has a goal. It is not a departure, because so long as you are building upon the past, you cannot say that it is a departure. Now, the motto of the SNC, which is the force of argument, does not mean that you don't have a right to fight in self-defense. That is one thing you must understand. But we were committed to dialogue. If the other partner is not ready for dialogue, you have to think of other alternatives. Either to go on the aggressive international offensive, or to see what next you must do, because you have a goal to attain. And that goal is your freedom. That is what I want you to understand.
Okay, so it's just a continuity. It's just a continuation of the struggle.
Yes, it is a continuation, and you must also know that even right from foundation, when the Youth League came into being in from 1995 effectively, it was definitely to invigorate the efforts of their leaders, the efforts of their mothers and their fathers. And you should also understand that as a family never exists without the parents and the children. So is it with the nation. So the youths are there and they are adding only greater vigor and muscle to the struggle.
Let me move to another subject. All the different factions were there represented except the Ambazonian movement, if you want to call it that. What do you have to say about that? It doesn't look like they came on board on this.
I should say that it is an unfortunate thing that they were not there, although I saw one member. We agreed we were going to talk, but unfortunately we didn't have time to talk. I would have liked to know his opinion or what must have happened. So long as they were not here and I have not got any reaction from them, it will be prejudicial for me to draw any conclusion to explain their absence.
Okay, that's good. Now, one of the reasons why, and I just want to follow up and get your reaction to that. One of the reasons why they haven't come on board is they talk about it, the identity thing. It seems to be kind of a big thing for them, and they want the name of the country changed, Cameroon erased from southern Cameroons and go to Ambazonia. What's your take on that?
That is a very important question, and I must say that even when we had the Constituent Assembly in May 2000, which I presided, the issue of the need to change the name came on debate. That is the Constituent Assembly at which all the national symbols, which we are now so familiar with, were adopted, including the national anthem. We discovered that we are now fighting to re-establish our identity within the international community. And within the international community, going into records, Southern Cameroon or British Southern Cameroon is a familiar territory and a familiar name. It is no longer anything that you need to begin to introduce. You just need to go into history. You will re-establish the identity. So when we debated on this and saw that the question of changing the name once we have restored our independence won't be a problem, we said this should not be the issue for now. The important thing now is to make sure that we penetrate the international community and pass on the message and then win the sympathy of the international community. When once our independence is restored, in an assembly, in a constituent assembly, the debate can be held, and the due process of argument for and against and put into vote, then the decision of the people will stand. So the suggestions, including the name Ambazonia, we have not less than 6 names which are in a fight, waiting for that right moment. While appreciating the concerns of the Ambazonians under the leadership of Goji Dinka, one of the ablest fighters for the restoration of the statehood of Southern Cameroon, I must say that putting the issue of the name nomenclature Ambazonia in the forefront of the struggle, as if without it we cannot be united to fight and then capture the elephant, to me, I think is very unfortunate. And I still appeal to them to understand that the Constituent Assembly which we held in May, the name Ambazonia is one of the names that is in the fire. And when time comes, all of us will sit down together, whichever name wins the day will stand. But for now, to start with Ambazonia and go to explain to people that this Ambazonia we are talking about was formerly called British Southern Cameroon. Why not just put the British Southern Cameroon, whose map we know, and then win the sympathy of the people, and then this will be an internal issue rather than making it an international issue when you have not solved the problem of the restoration of the statehood.
Okay. I have another question for you, which I've also heard, and I've heard Frundi say this time and time again, and I think I'll give you an opportunity to respond. He's usually said the SCNC has a problem of leadership, that they change leaders all the time and they have no committed leaders, that the leaders are bought once, they have another one, and he goes. What's your response to that?
What I want to let him understand is the SNC is a dynamic organization. It is not a stereotype that will have to hang on to individuals or persons. Those who have the leaders that have fallen by the way had their reasons. Either it was a decision of council to replace, or it was a question of the natural force, such as led Dr. Martin Luma, may his soul rest in perfect peace. That is something which is inevitable in a dynamic society. The question of saying that the SNC is suffering from lack of leadership. If we were suffering from lack of leadership, the SNC wouldn't have been what it is now. Frundi himself knows very well that the SDF is no longer a threat to Mr. Biya. What is a threat to Mr. Biya is the Southern Cameroon issue, is the SNC issue. That is a fact of history. And now all over the world, the SNC is no longer an unknown quantity. It is a force, both in Cameroon, in the two Cameroons, and internationally.
Now let me change topics here on you. There is, as I saw the deliberations going on yesterday, it seems to me that we are really planning that the fight, and it's been the same fight all along, that the fight is really against France because, you know the history and you know how France rules its former colonies. How has the NCNC, first of all, addressed French involvement in the recolonization of Southern Cameroon? What's the role of France in this whole fight, and how does the NCNC handle that, and how has the NCNC how has the NCNC decided to resolve that?
Now, to understand the role of France in the whole game of the liberation struggle in the two Cameroons, you have to understand the philosophy of decolonization within the French Empire. Independence for the French colonies, as well as trust territories that were under French administration, was independence avec la France. It was not independence as such. So it was a question of change of personalities, bringing black men to continue to defend the interests of the French. Because without the colonies in Africa, France will definitely become a third world in Europe. That is a fact which we know. We understand this very well. But our position is very clear. Our problem lies with the UN and Britain. France has only come to benefit from a vacuum which Britain created. We are not going to leave the very person that we know is responsible for our suffering and go to fight the person that has benefited from a crime that somebody committed against Southern Cameroonians. Without the imposition of the plebiscite in 1961, the annexation of Southern Cameroon by La République du Cameroun wouldn't have taken place. We are saying that an injustice was done to a people. Why? Because after the plebiscite, there was the issue of the implementation of Resolution 1608 of April 21, 1961. This resolution was never implemented. And as such, no legal union ever came into being between La République du Cameroun and the Southern Cameroon, as it was expected to be concluded during the post-plebiscite conference. This is where the matter is. And I think we have sufficiently addressed this matter both to the UN, to Britain, and as well as other world leaders, including France itself.
Well, doesn't that really allow France scot-free to continue to benefit? I mean, they are the enemy on the ground, and if you target the UN and Britain, basically they continue to to rule the place with impunity and exploit it without fear or favor because you are not really attacking them.
If we were to attack them and leave the person that is responsible for our suffering, they will as well continue. But the issue is that by exposing Britain and exposing the UN, we are now drawing the attention to the fact that had they not imposed this plebiscite, this problem wouldn't have arisen, because it is the failure of the non-implementation of Resolution 1608 that has brought us into this mess. Therefore, if you were to argue by the logic of the non-implementation, it boils down to the fact that the Southern Cameroon is still a UN responsibility, because Article 76B of the UN Charter, as well as Article 3 of the Trusteeship Agreement, spells out the function of the administering authority, and that all trust territories, as it was further amplified in Resolution 1514 of 1960, all the dependencies were entitled to unconditional independence. Unconditional. That is the independence without reservation, whether the territory is rich, is small, big, or not well developed. The people were entitled to their freedom and independence, because that is an inalienable right of all people. So what we are doing, we are not leaving the enemy, because as we address the UN, France is a member of the UN, and it is also another permanent member of the Trusteeship Council. And it was this, the 5 permanent members of the Trusteeship Council that were in the of the Security Council, that were members of the Trusteeship Council. All these are being handled, but we are only trying to focus and identify the number one enemy and the number one problem and deal with it, so that we restore our independence.
Now let me ask you, as one of the leaders inside the territory, how difficult is it to try to liberate yourself when you are totally and completely occupied by your colonizer?
It is not an easy thing. As I've said, Cameroon is a huge prison, and every Southern Cameroonian is a prisoner. For example, last month, we embarked on a nationwide, that is sensitization tour of the territory. Some DIOs, that is the proconsuls of La Republic, issued bans. For example, National Chairman Chief Ayamba, the Northern Zone Chairman, Prince Humphrey Mbenglo, and myself, the National Vice Chairman, we were banned from entering Boy, which means that going to my own county, which is Dongamanto, I could not even go, because I'm not entitled until the ban is lifted. I cannot set my foot on any inch of Boy County, which is an impossibility. But we still went. We were arrested, and at the end, we were released. So what I'm driving at is that the international community seems not to know the type of apartheid policies that are still reigning in Southern Cameroon. You see, in apartheid South Africa, there were the passes where the blacks were banned from going into certain areas. Now, when a citizen of a country is banned from entering a part of that country, even his own place, for example, Prince Benglo is of Boy. He's a prince of Boy. And he was now banned from entering Boy. This is the paradox of it all. But what we are saying is that all this intimidation, all violation of our rights notwithstanding, we are determined to fight for our rights, and we are going to achieve our legitimate ambition.
I'm going to ask you, what role do you think, apart from what say happened yesterday, what role do you think Southern Cameroonians outside the territory have in terms of this struggle?
Good. I must say that I register this question as a very, very important question, and I will appeal to you people to take whatever answer or suggestions I'm going to make very, very serious. The first thing is that you people should understand one thing, that majority of you are outside because you are not free, you have no hope, you have no future back in your own homeland. As you had no hope and had to escape, which some of you are refugees and suffering, you have even abandoned parts of the families back at home because not every person can be brought out. Your parents cannot be brought out, your sisters and brothers cannot be brought out. You may be here alone, leaving sometimes more than 20 other family members behind. So I'm saying that the problem is still there. You people should not sleep in the free America and think that you are free because your nation has been recolonized by a neighboring country through annexation. The second thing is that as other people, including the Jews in the United States, who are helping to build Israel, as the Eritreans had to fight and contribute both financially, materially, and logistically, as well as carry out campaigns aggressively in the nation of in the country in which they live. My appeal to Southern Cameroonians, both in the United States and Canada and other European countries such as Belgium, Germany, Holland, and the rest, is that you people should organize yourselves and keep the embassies of La République du Cameroon, Britain, the United Nations offices, even France, consistently under pressure because your nation is in bondage. Secondly, you should also contribute financially as the Eritreans did and assist those of us back at home in different ways to educate even the young ones whose parents cannot sponsor the children to go to school, so that they should study, as well as contribute in assisting us in the liberation struggle, because we need a lot of things. Take, for example, computers to you people are here like toys, but we don't even have. So we cannot even produce the documents, produce the education material and disseminate to the population. If we have things such as computers, even somebody has a small printing press, to come and set up some kind of industry, even a documentation office, you will assist in employing even just one person. And by employing one person, you may be helping to feed many other dependents. So the appeal is in different ways, that you should not sleep because you are not free until your nation is free. You should contribute and continue to pray for us, those of us who are at home, and make sure that when you have the least opportunity of writing either to any relation who is either back at home or somewhere else in another country, remind him that our nation, Southern Cameroon, is recolonized and we must fight for its liberation.
Let me touch on Nigeria. Do these African countries like Nigeria, do they have any responsibility to Southern Cameroon and its struggles?
Yes. Under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Articles 19 and 20, to be specific, are very, very clear. Articles 20, sub 1, 2, and 3 states that signatories to this charter owe it a duty to assist any people fighting legitimately for their rights and freedom and independence. This particular article condemns foreign domination in any manner, be it cultural, economic, or political, and goes ahead to recognize the right of such people that are victims of foreign domination to fight for their independence. And we recognize the importance of Nigeria, not only because Nigeria is a neighboring country, not only because Nigeria, we share a cultural and historical identity with Nigeria. We recognize the importance of Nigeria from the point of Nigeria being the number one nation on the African continent. And again, from history, Nigeria has been responsible for the liberation of many other African countries, such as South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Angola, and many others. They contributed enormously. Even the trouble in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, you know what role Nigeria has been playing. We are saying that if war should break out in southern Cameroon, Nigeria will be the first country to feel the pinch. Therefore, Nigeria should not turn its eyes away from the suffering people of southern Cameroon. They should respect this charter, which constitutes part of the Nigerian current constitution, and come to the assistance of southern Cameroon to free people that are held under some kind of apartheid.
Now, help me with something. A few years ago, we heard about this court decisions in Abuja. Whatever happened to that? It doesn't look like the decisions were implemented. Why?
Yes, the decisions, I should say, to the best of my knowledge, I was part of it. We constituted the 12-man delegation that took Nigeria to court, and the ruling was passed in our favor. It is in the context of our peaceful approach that we decided to take Nigeria to court, because we know there was this problem of the Bakassi Peninsula between La République du Cameroon and Nigeria. We were challenging Nigeria that from the international boundaries, Nigeria has no maritime boundary with La République. Therefore, La République could not have taken Nigeria to court, and Nigeria should not have answered any question on grounds that doing that means it is assisting La République in consolidating the annexation of southern Cameroon. The judgment was passed in our favor, and as you have rightly observed, it has not been implemented. What I should also like to point out is that Nigeria has not appealed against that judgment. So as far as we are concerned, that judgment is only waiting execution, and we believe that it will be executed.
Now, let me ask you a historical clarification. There was a conference that held in Nfor, sometime like that. Could you enlighten us on that particular conference? Just before independence.
Okay, the 1959 plebiscite conference.
Right.
Yeah, the 1959 plebiscite conference was definitely organized by the colonial administration to impose on southern Cameroonians what came out to be called the two alternatives. Either southern Cameroonians decide to attain independence by joining the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or by joining La République du Cameroon. Now, I should point out that this conference, it was a question of the manipulation of the colonial powers. And as I've drawn your attention to Resolution 1514 of 1960, by imposing these two alternatives on southern Cameroonians and denying them the full right to total independence, it was in violation of Article 76B of the UN Charter and the trusteeship system. Now, well, the end of it was that the UN finally imposed the two alternatives, and that is how the plebiscite of February 11, 1961 came about. And that is what has contributed to the fate of our people today.
So that conference was just a conference organized by the colonial authorities to
serve their interests.
Okay.
Yes, to serve their interests. It was not in the interest of southern Cameroon, because our leaders did not welcome the issue of plebiscite. It was a violation of their rights, and there are records to that effect, that it was an imposition.
Now, there are southern Cameroonians who are either nonchalant or opposed to the separation of southern Cameroon from La République du Cameroon. for one reason or the other. What is your message to them?
Yeah, to me, I term these people the lackeys. And I want to say that even during anti-colonial movements, liberation wars, be it in South Africa, Mozambique, or even Angola or wherever, they were always traitors. These people are traitors, and they will go down in history as traitors. And I believe when time shall come, Southern Cameroonians shall identify their heroes and who the enemies of the freedom of our people were. And they shall be treated as all traitors are treated.
I want you to respond to another comment which the British have said. The British have said Southern Cameroonians should go and blame their leaders for their fate. How do you respond to that?
The British government stands condemned from day one to the last day as far as the decolonization of Southern Cameroon is concerned. They didn't do their job. They did it so badly, so poorly, and that's why the thing stands. It is an unfinished task that they have. Yes, our leaders share in the blame, just the same as you and me of this generation share in the blame, because some of us, by our behavior, we are prolonging the suffering of our people. But I want to say that number one person that is responsible for the suffering of our people is Britain, is the UN, and the leaders at the time. Then finally, it is any person who is serving as a lackey or as a traitor, who is teaming up with the annexationists against the inalienable right of our people to restore their independence.
Now I'm going to ask you the last question. What is your prediction in the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, my hope, my desire is that Southern Cameroon should be free before the 5 years. I see the 5 years as being too far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I pray that the exchanges that we have had should go to educate many other Southern Cameroonians who may not have had the privilege to have attended the conference of yesterday and to listen to the powerful speeches that were made and the appeals that were made, and that from this age we should become a determined people, as the Eritreans, as the East Timorese were. They fought and they sacrificed, because there is nothing as dear to a people as their freedom and their independence. Thank you very much.
Edmond was going to be my ride, and he was not well.